I call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order at 6:38. I will ask that alternate Mr. Neela come and sit in. Commissioner Cerna, the commissioners, um, I'm seeing it here. Celestine Spot and Miss Gabriella, if you will come and sit in place of Commissioner Hardin Spot. I do announce that a quorum is present. Moving on to public comments, non-agenda items, public comments, white card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics with the length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. Agenda items, public comments, yellow card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda items combined for the length of time to not exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items except for public hearing. Comments on public hearing items must be made when the items come before the board, commission, or committee and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. Non-action or discussion may be taken by the board, commission, or committee during public comments on non-agenda items. We do have a white card, Mr. Robert Bataille. And you do have 3 minutes, right, Mr. Bataille? All right.
Thank you, sir, and good to see you guys. My name's Robert Bataille. What I wanted to talk about was using some public funds for the Harriet Tubman mural that I'd like to put into the art park. And I sent you guys a letter. I'm not sure if it got to you since you guys don't have your own email addresses, but basically, as I understand the process, if I send you a quote official letter with the request that you consider things, you have to look at them and they have to be on your agenda and have them come up. So this is one of 3 items that I put on there. And in fact, we have about $1.4 million to do various community projects. That includes the park funds, that includes the HOT hotel funds, and it also includes $375,000 in community programs funds. So I'd like to basically take those funds and prorate amongst the 3 of those to do the Harriet Tubman mural. And this is essentially a reproduction of the mural that is in the Harriet Tubman Museum in Maryland. And this would be something phenomenal for our community and really uplifting. Harriet Tubman is one of the great heroines of our lifetimes. And in Maryland, they get probably 10,000 visitors a year just to come take selfies with her. So this would cost with everything about $50,000. And not only do I want to do the Tubman mural there, I want to have the concrete underneath it, basically a reproduction of the U.S. from around 1860 with the various tribal areas, the Native, quote, Americans. There are actually 570 different tribes, and we need to start bringing these natives into our consciousness and into our fold. And I think that would be a great way to do that. And I was just talking to the artist. I think he thinks it's a great idea. And he would also come down here for the installation, have a big ceremony and so forth. And I also want to use part of this $50,000 in the hotel funds to do some events there. Harriet Tubman couldn't read or write. So I don't really want any writing to be shown from Lexington. But on the back of the mural, I do want to have a variety of things, including an explanation of the different tribal areas. And also, I'd like to have all of the city employees, committees, commissions, and boards names on there too. But I don't want it in some hierarchy. I want them just random with their names and job titles. Because to me, the person that cuts the grass is just as important as the city manager. And that's kind of what I want to say with that listing of the names. I also want to talk a little about James Maynard.
Time's up, Mr. Robert.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to public comments. It's the yellow cards. We do have Mr. Robert Bataille.
Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Robert Bataille. Now, my comments tonight just show the absurdity of these time restrictions that the mayor has imposed on city council meetings, that you don't have to follow everything that the little mayor tells you to do. You're a commission. You guys need to rise to the challenge, seriously. In this letter of the 3 things I wanted you to do, one of them was to get ground penetrating radar at what is now the Martin McVeigh Cemetery area that was established in 1906. These lilies here, that's a black person's grave. If you know anything about black people and their burial things, that's very common. In 1906, that was the black cemetery for a little while, until about 1913, and that's when the white people decided to exert pressure, and that's when they put the 15-foot Confederate monument in there. So I think from 1906 to 1913, that was the black cemetery. When it got closed down, Martin McVeigh actually is buried at the Park Springs Cemetery on the outskirts of town. Okay, now, there's a dozen things I'd like to talk about on this agenda tonight. For one, we need to have plazas in every commercial development over 10 acres. That's in the codes. All we have to do is ask for that. If we don't ask for it, the developer is not going to do it. It's that simple. Now, one thing that you have in here on the last agenda item, it talks about following up on the workshop. So I would say, for one thing, did you guys do anything to kind of take all the things you learned from that little workshop you did with Scott and so forth and kind of put them into a handbook? Because it seems to me like every committee and commission, every time they have to relearn the whole process, every time. We need to really make some progress in our education for the future people that come after you guys. You know, I sent you an email about this too. I'd really be curious to know how long it takes them to get from Scott Dunlap to you guys. The speaking rules are ridiculous. This thing about translators. A person has to ask for a translator 10 days ahead, but they don't even know what's on the agenda until 3 days ahead. So how can they ever do that? That's ridiculous. There's nothing in these council procedures about commissions at all. They don't want any independent commissions. Nothing in there about commissions. You guys have no training. So one thing also that's very important is to put a halt to the use of this comprehensive plan and this ridiculous dashboards. These were made up by the Freese and Knucklehead planners. At the very least, you need to do a fully intensive survey of all the citizens in Old Manor and see if they want this crud that you are wanting to do. Downtown, they want to turn our little quaint little 1850 downtown into 6th Street Austin with all these boxes, and we don't need giant live work play boxes there. We want it quaint and historic. The big quote downtown needs to go in the center of the ETJ, and our planners need to go there and see if they can figure out where the center of the ETJ is. They're so busy trying to destroy this downtown. It's not a downtown. I shouldn't even say that word. I got kicked out of a workshop about that downtown destruction. And it's right here in number 3.03 in the council procedures that public workshops are public workshops and the public are supposed to be invited. Now, I also discovered an ethics commission. We're supposed to have an ethics commission. The ethics commission is a very powerful commission. They can subpoena people. They can reprimand people. They can have immense power to do things. We've never even had a person on there. They don't want to have ethics. Am I the first person to think ethics were a good thing for Manor? I hope not. Sure feels that way, though. So, these three items that I sent to you guys, again, to me, that's an official request, and you need to, between now and your next meeting, get those in the agenda. It's not really optional. If the citizen asks you this stuff specifically, you have to do it. Put it on there for discussion. Excuse me. Another thing I think
Time's up, Mr. Robert.
Can I have 30 seconds?
No, I'm sorry, sir.
You're sorry? Are you really sorry?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bataille. Moving on to public hearing. Conduct a public hearing on rezoning application for 2 lots on 12.627 acres, more or less, and being located at 13105 FM 1100 Manor, Texas, for agriculture to medium commercial. We have Mr. Robert Bataille. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Robert.
Thank you. Okay, so this is 12.67 acres, and therefore that requires a plaza. That's on the east side of the community, and that would be great to have a beautiful gateway for the people coming from Houston and elsewhere, to have a beautiful bell tower or something there that's really something spectacular. Which, of course, brings me to this other point, which is HEB sounds like they finally bought the land over here, and they need to put a plaza in there as well. They're not going to do it unless we ask them to. We gave them $20 million of incentives. We helped pay their sewer pipes and infrastructure there by giving them half the sales taxes for 20 years, up to $20 million. I think they can, gosh darn, spend $300,000 on a plaza. Something spectacular. With fountains, bell tower, windmill. I have a design I'd like to do that's basically an oil derrick transitioning into a solar and wind powered thing. But there's plenty of, well, I shouldn't speak like I know it. You would think there'd be a lot of creative ideas we could put in there. HEB, of course, they do have some plazas at some of their other things. Like at the one on Lamar, for instance, where you can go in back and hang out, you can dance, have music. We should have that on the Volker site too. So you guys need to empower yourselves. There's no reason to be timid. If you wanted to be timid, you should be on a committee. You're a commission. You're supposed to be independent or quasi-independent. And all you have to do is ask for the stuff. There's a lot of great stuff in our city codes. All we have to do is read it and make it happen. But I think some of the people represent the developers more than the citizens. And they give away parkland, they give away money, they give away plazas. And it's up to you guys to stand strong and tall and ask for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bataille. Commissioners, we also have the owner and developer and the civil engineer here for consent item, agenda item, our public hearing number 1. Mr. Scott.
Sure. So this property is at the corner of US 290 and 1100. So it's pretty far down there, heading towards Elgin. A portion of it, 1.2 acres, is currently in the process of being annexed by the city council. So this zoning application was filed concurrently with their annexation, so it's all kind of timed out. Should it, have their approvals? It's currently zoned ag and SF1. So the SF1 is from the initial annexation of that portion of the property in 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. And then the little bit of ag in the back of it was from more recent annexations in 2017. Both of those are the default zoning after annexations. So this is the first time that these properties have been requested to be zoned. And they are requesting C2, which is consistent with pretty much all of the commercial properties on 290. And as you can see in the next agenda item, there is a specific use permit that's requested for gas sales, but C2 medium commercial, it provides a whole range of retail type options. But yes, if you have any other questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do we have any idea with a plot this size how many businesses approximately would fit on there? Guess.
We have a 9-acre lot, which is also on tonight's agenda. They're replotting it into one, and that was going from 5 lots to 1. So that theoretically could have had 5 different businesses on a just shy of 10-acre property. This property does have some floodplain on it, not where they're proposing to do anything construction, but there is a little bit of the acreage that's reduced if they didn't want to modify or try to build in that floodplain area. So yeah, you can accommodate there. Again, when we get to the specific use permit, there's a conceptual site plan that kind of shows that they're not planning to utilize all of the property at this time, and they're here. They may have plans for the remaining portions of the property, but for right now, it's sort of the couple acres right at the corner is the planned use.
I know we discussed in the workshop kind of the traffic. Obviously, the further east you go, the more the traffic backs up. But one of the mitigation strategies was to have people have jobs east, right? So they're not traveling into Austin to do jobs. So they're traveling toward Elgin to do jobs, which could reduce the amount of traffic going into Austin. So is this kind of in alignment with that?
I mean, it's not. I mean, yes, there'll be a couple jobs with it, but it's not, something that went through the economic development department. It's not seen as a, massive job supplier. I mean, we're trying to 1100 further up it on the future land use map for, how we're kind of intending that side of the city. 1100 is planned as sort of employment center. So once you get a little past 290, that's kind of where the economic development department is trying to drive some of the newer services are more readily available, but some of the more jobs type development properties of like light industrial or like office campus type stuff, and less housing there. We've actually gotten quite a few proposals for some decently sized subdivisions on 1100 that we've denied just because they don't meet the city's plans. This area, yes, has plans for future jobs, but this particular tract area on the future land use map is commercial corridor. So C2 is, in line with that. But yeah, that's not a jobs thing.
Okay. That's good to hear, right? Because I think that's the more you can push those people that way for work, the better. So yeah, that makes sense. Are they, so did they annex the entire thing from 290 to Volker? Like that whole track? front to back?
So if you're looking at the zoning map, there's a small little blue rectangle. That's the portion, the 1.2 acres that's being annexed right now. The
Oh.
yellow portion and the light green are already in the city limits.
Oh, I see. Okay. But they're going to combine all of that to be one thing.
Yeah, right now it is one property. Depending on if there's any offset improvements, they may need to plat it. It may be exempt from platting. A legal lot determination hasn't been made. Right now they're just focused on getting the entitlements for the zoning and the specific use permit, which follows this item.
And does someone have the property next to it? Like, is there a house next to it?
Did that gentleman sign up for this?
I can answer that.
Sorry, once again. Were there any other comments on this one?
You want me to answer that? About the
They said they do not wish to speak, but they can answer questions if they need to. I guess the owner and developer. Can we?
Did you fill out one of the speaker cards?
Yeah, I'll eventually get up there. It has nothing to do with the house.
But it was for this item?
I just know there's a house where that little blue square is.
Oh, sorry, you signed up for number 2. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss you. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, thank
You have this. Yeah, so there's a house where that little blue square is.
Can you walk up to the podium
I'm
and
sorry.
say your name?
Sorry. I'm Daryl Swenson. We own some property just a little bit north of there, and I'll eventually come up to speak for what I signed up for. But there is a house where the little blue square is at the corner of 1100 and 290, and right there where it says Carl Drive. Those lines there are the gravel roads for a little trailer court that's across the street from this property. Other than that, there's no other houses on that property or even adjacent to it directly. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Spencer. Mandy, can we go to the next screen? I think the next screen shows the actual houses that are there.
And are they moving? Like those people in the house, they know that. Okay.
The representatives are here. You can invite them up.
Oh, okay. Yes. Coming up.
Yeah, my name is Mirza Beg, and I'm a civil engineer from professional to civil engineer. And our client bought this property, and once we develop it, the existing house is going to be gone. It's going to be demo. So they're going to move out of the house here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Do we have any more questions, commissioners? You get a motion to close agenda public hearing number 1.
Move to close agenda item number 1.
I'll second. I have a motion by Vice Chair Commissioner Chavis and a second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. conduct a public hearing on a specific use request for one lot on 1.273 acres more or less, and being located at 13105 FM 1100 Maynard, Texas, to allow for that. The includes a 14,020 square feet parking and drive. General retail, Mexican Mart building, 6 MPDs, 3 diesel MPDs, and associate parking and drive alleys. Mr. Bataille.
Thank you, sir. My name's Robert Bataille. I think some of you guys share my opinion that, gee whiz, another gas station. Boy, that's exciting. My main question is, why is there no electric vehicle charging points here? Our city has been claiming for 2 years that, we're a regional leader. That's a good one. And also that we're sustainable. In fact, they just did a proclamation for Earth Day. Despite that, we don't have one single recycle can in the entire city or in any of our parks, but we call ourselves sustainable and we're supporting Earth Day. The only way these people are ever going to put in electric charging stations is if we force them to. Is that really hard to understand? I want to see this with perhaps a spot for 8 charging stations, and let's put in 2 right now, and we'll see how much they get used. If we don't put them in, they won't get used, that's for sure. And I would like to say that we don't really want 40-foot semi-trucks parking there overnight, do we? Do we really want that there? I don't think so. They can park in Austin or Elgin. They don't need to park in Manor. So again, let's put some electrical charging stations in there and come back with a plan, I think, for 8, but let's put in 2 right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bataille. Next we have, Mr. Daryl Swinson. Mr. Swinson, you have 2 minutes.
Yep. So I'm Daryl Swinson. Once again, we own a little property just north of there. Just a background if you're not familiar, but FM 1100 is a small 2-lane road with no shoulders. And that's the issue that I have with this particular development. Personally, I'm all for the Mexican market and a gas station going there, but not without road improvements that will keep this intersection and that road from being frustrating for the people going in and out of it, and also the frustration causing dangerous conditions. So there's in the model here, there are 65 roughly parking spaces, so the owners are expecting it to be busy. As such, especially with the large trucks, the back driveway that turns onto 1100, you're asking a large truck, if they exit that way, you're asking them to try to make a hard left turn on a 2-lane road, and it's all asphalt, not in great shape. That is going to tear up the road very quickly unless there are improvements to 1100. Big trucks coming in, coming westbound, coming from Elgin. There is no design here because it's, of course, that would have to be TxDOT approved, but there are no designs here for a deceleration lane so that big trucks especially can get out of the way of the regular traffic that wants to continue on to Manor. And also acceleration lanes coming off of FM 1100 for any type of vehicle, but especially the big trucks, to be able to take a right heading towards Manor and get up to speed before they merge into traffic. Without those things, this becomes an extremely dangerous and frustrating piece of property. I would advise to require the FM 1100 to be widened to 4 lanes going up to Velka Road. 2 reasons. One, because the regular citizens, regular people that live farther north on 1100, as they come south and they're trying to get onto 290, they already stack up there just because of the traffic itself. But if they don't have if they don't have a way to get around the big trucks that maybe want to take a right or a left and be able to make their movements as well, they may be stuck behind a big truck trying to get out on 290 for quite a bit of time before an opening comes up where the truck can accelerate into traffic.
Your time's up, Mr. Swenson.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, we do have the owner and engineer here. Mr. Scott.
Sure. So have you heard, this is a gas station request with some typical associated uses for the convenience store, Mexican market. And they are proposing 6 fuel dispensers that are multiple sides, so 12 fueling positions. Diesel pumps on their schematic, it shows for 2 tractor trailers. There isn't, there are 2 gas stations in the vicinity, well, kind of far. One is about 8,900 feet away and the other is about 2,500 feet away. So they're not directly nearby. If you want to take distance considerations in, the last time we did a specific use permit, I think the gas station was only 750 feet away. But spacing requirements are completely up to you all. It's not dictated in code. My recommendations for consideration discussion, you may see in your backup, you're not the right one. There's a schematic for a gas station that was, or a Quick Trip in Buda, or Kyle it was, that kind of has a different site layout, where the canopy is to the side of the building. So it helps to open up the front of the building, and you're not really just looking at people fueling their cars and gas canopies. It makes the site a little better. And then the diesel is behind the building, which sort of separates the tractor trailer uses from the passenger vehicle uses. So there's some site layouts that can be considered. So it's not maybe the typical layout, but they have the space to sort of modify and shift around some of those canopies. And then also, they don't have the space necessarily on this conceptual site plan, but doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't be provided. But just making sure to, if you were inclined to limit or prohibit overnight tractor trailer parking, just if they're providing the diesel fueling pump separate, there may be some desire or need for those drivers to want to park there overnight if they had the space to, and if that was something that you all weren't looking to have as a use, then you can limit that. And then, as Mr. Bertai said, it may be wise to request some EV parking spaces. I think the other one there, the other specific use permit we did, they're planning some EV spaces, so it's become more common to do that and to have some chargers available when it opens, and then have it wired for future pedestals as more EVs come online. So that way the site's adaptable without significant modifications. So yeah, those would be my 3 recommendations for discussion. Is just how the site's arranged, tractor trailer parking, and then if you wanted to require any EV spaces. In terms of the access, FM 1100 is unsignalized at this point. I'm not sure if TxDOT would require a traffic impact analysis on this site. It may be too few trips, but TxDOT has some leeway and has in the past requested or required TIAs, even if it didn't meet the city's threshold of 2,000 trips per day, just because they are understanding and familiar with our traffic issues and they don't. So they may require it, but they may not. But it may be challenging if you wanted to require certain traffic mitigations because they are TxDOT roads. So TxDOT does have their rules and policies on how that happens, but developers can certainly make donations to TxDOT. So some things like a traffic light. So if you say you wanted them to signalize FM 1100, that has to meet warrants. So there is a very specific state guideline on how traffic signals are installed. But something like a turn lane, or maybe adding a shoulder, or even widening it to 4 lanes, TxDOT may take that as just a contribution and say, "Great, thank you, you can do that, and thanks for improving our facility." The right of way may not be there though. This property will probably have right of way dedication, but that may be only half the width that's required for the ultimate roadway there. FM 1100 is a major arterial on our thoroughfare plan, so it's at least 4 lanes, which I think is 100 to 120 feet of right of way. So maybe building it out completely as a MAD 4, they may not have the width of the road to do that without having the other property on the other side, provide some dedication. But it may be something like having sufficient turning maneuvers there. But again, TxDOT has their policies, and since it's completely on TxDOT right of way, we can request and maybe put in here that traffic mitigations are needed, but we may have to report back that TxDOT may have not accepted them, and it's their roads and they control them. But we would like to see some improvements there as well.
So the increased road maintenance costs would be a concern. So who takes on that cost? And who would take on the cost of the initial development of like widening and putting in the turn lane? Would it be the developers themselves, or would it be on the city?
Most traffic improvements that TxDOT prefers it be done by the developers and then essentially donated to TxDOT. TxDOT doesn't really take money any longer. They prefer for contributions to be constructed and then donated to them. And then maintenance as a TxDOT road would be on TxDOT. So any additional payment width or anything would be on for TxDOT to maintain.
Has there been a promise of these improvements by the developer as of right now?
No. Any traffic improvements weren't discussed. So we can discuss them tonight and you can provide feedback with them.
So I know you said it, Scott, but I think I agree with everybody else that's here. As we look at these, we see on 290 that those 18-wheelers are coming. They're the almost number one thoroughfare of our permitting our goods. But you put that amount of weight on a 2-lane road, that road is going to get destroyed in a matter of months. What I'm also looking at is once those guys figure out that store is there, they're going to start using Velker Lane, come on 1100 and come that back way. So now they're going to start tearing that up. My question is, with everybody else, is how do we fix those roads to be able to withstand that weight of those 18-wheelers? But also, we are down the street from Tesla, and I don't know of a electrical station here in Maynard. So would our developers be willing to put these things in, or can we have the developer or the engineer answer that question?
Yeah, my name is Mirza Beg from Professional Engineer, and basically when this kind of development goes to the TxDOT, the most of the time they require TIA and the improvement in the right of way, and we are aware of that. The chances are they ask for the deacceleration lane, and we are not at that stage, but we're going to do the TIA based on TxDOT recommendation, and chances are pretty high we need to do the improvements on the highway. And the second thing regarding the EV parking, yes, we're planning to provide some parking on this one. Our client has another project in Page truck stop. We putting Tesla EV chargers on that one. And regarding the overnight truck stop, it's just the fueling, and they're not going to stay overnight. We're not providing any spaces for the trucks to stay overnight.
Okay, and then I guess my last question would be on that FM 1100. Are you guys willing to do some road work to that to withstand those trucks that
Yeah,
are going to just come in?
basically what happened when we do the TIA, usually it tells us how much traffic we generating, and based on that we coordinate with TaxDOT what kind of improvement we need near the driveways. So the chances are we're going to have a deacceleration lane and the improvement, but usually it comes when we submit the site plan. Right now it's in the concept stage, but those improvement is going to come once we move forward with the site plan.
Thank you. Commissioners, you have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. On the gas pumps, the way they're showing on this diagram is pretty typical, but I have noticed that in that kind of layout, that those people that would be parking in front of the store backing out are in constant conflict with the people pulling through the pumps. So reorienting them 90 degrees would be a way to avoid the conflict between the parking cars that aren't pumping gas and the ones that are. So I think it would be a better layout if it's turned 90 degrees pumps versus the parking in front.
All right. Any more questions, commissioners?
I have two. One was maybe a comment and maybe further clarification on what the engineer from the development side had just spoken to, that they would work with TxDOT on if they were going to make the necessary updates to 1100. And it sounded like it was more so you will find the minimum requirements required by TxDOT and then apply those. And I was wondering if prior to our decision, if we'll have any hard dedication on what those would actually be, because I think there's like probably more than a chance if they come back and say no requirements are necessarily updated, then we know that these larger trucks are going to be like turning onto the street, and over time it will cause like road deterioration. And so that's a larger concern of mine. And the second one being around safety concerns. I think what was mentioned earlier is that people are going really fast on this road, and if there's a lot of large trucks that are turning into this facility and slowing down quite a bit, I think that's like a rather like large concern, especially as this area is like mainly residential, even right to the left. That's where the Carillon neighborhood is, and so there's a lot of residential area right by it. And so as people are like making turns into this, it's like I think that would be like a major concern in like the number of accidents, because we see like the number of accidents that are happening even by this Walmart almost weekly that are pretty bad. And what we're doing like ahead of time before approval, what will be done to mitigate that.
So if I may, you don't have to approve this with the diesel pumps. You can restrict those so it's only gas. So if the large trucks are concerned for multiple reasons, I mean, you can, in the recommendation, to say that the diesel fueling isn't permitted, and then you wouldn't have the large trucks.
Okay, and my last question is, do we have any like historical numbers for number of gas stations per number of residences? Because it does seem like for the area in traffic patterns that there are a lot of gas stations right in that area. And I don't know if this was counted in the distance, but there is a coming soon sign for a gas station, one light down from this one where this one is proposed.
Yeah, so there is at Bodark and 290, the min-max. There's that, like, I think it's the new Valera that just opened in front of Presidential Glen, which is on that distance requirement there. That's what 8,900 feet away. And then the Bodark one is a little bit further to the west of that, like just a little bit to the west. But after Paseo de Presidente or Kimbrough, there are no other planned gas stations. This would be the only one. So there's the existing one, and then I think it's like Super Fuel or something like that. That's on the south side at Volker, yeah, the south end of Volker and 290. That's about 2,500 feet away. But yeah, there aren't any other planned gas stations over there.
I don't know. In the to the first point, was there any research on like generally number of gas stations?
Sorry
in
for
the
that.
area?
No. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a metric out there for the number of fuel pumps for residents. I think it mostly goes actually on just the vehicles per day on 290, because a lot of people on it, like probably half the cars aren't main or residents. They're coming in from other places, and so the gas stations are more interested in how many vehicles are on a certain road versus maybe necessarily the population that's around it. So being on 290 in a main road, I think we get a higher concentration of gas stations.
And I guess this is the last point where I heard the engineer talking about how they might plan on putting like charging stations, but do we have any power to require them versus just a soft suggestion that they might get put in dependent on market conditions?
Yeah, 100%. With a specific use permit, you have a lot of discretion over the property. So that's why you can say no diesel, no overnight truck parking, arrange your site in this way with the fuel pumps 90 degrees, put in X number of EV parking spaces. So there's a lot of discretion you have on the specific use on this permit.
Scott, do we know, and I don't know if this is even a great question, but do we know? I mean, I'm trying to think. I've traveled to Houston and stuff. Do we know the next point of, besides just stopping at a regular store, these 18-wheelers really do not have anywhere to stop for diesel on 290?
They will soon. So that min-max, that large gas station that's going in at Bodark and 290, so all intents and purposes a travel center. It doesn't have any mechanic stuff, and then they say they won't have any overnight truck parking. And that one was vested prior to our needing specific use permits. That was actually why the city council approved specific use permits for gas stations in C2 zoning, because they had C2 zoning, and so they're doing that, and that's going to have 3 diesel pumps in the back of the building. So it's a big site. That one's 9 acres. They have it arranged so like the truck parking, or the truck access is separate from the passenger vehicle access on the front. But they will exit on Bodark. They're supposed to do improvements over there. That portion of Bodark is the county's. But to your point, there is some specifically built semi-diesel pumps that are in the works. They have their permits approved. They're just finalizing some stuff, right, Mandy? Min-max? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Neela.
Sorry. So that's going to be going westbound, correct? And we don't have anything going eastbound until we get past Maynard, right?
Correct. Yeah, there'd be nothing on the eastbound side of 290.
So we have discretion. The thing we don't have here, we have a lot of gas stations. We have so many gas stations. The thing we don't have is an all EV gas station. Is there a way to say you can only have EV?
You could. I'm not sure the viability of that project, but yes, if you wanted all of their parking and I mean, at that point, it's actually Austin just amended their code to make EV charging as a primary use. Something that we'll probably have to look into if, as that becomes more of a thing, as no longer gas stations, they're charging stations or something along those lines. You could. I'm not sure at that point, if the applicant would still proceed with the project, but yeah.
The money could be good, and also with Tesla, like just the volume is going to increase, and we don't have like hardly any EV charging things in Maynard at all, right? How many EV charging do we have right now? Any?
One, and it's in the Maynard Grand apartments, so it's for them. Yeah, so there's definitely a need here. Typically, at least right now, I know things as time goes on, this type of services may change, but right now it seems like a lot of EV charging, it takes 30 minutes or so if you're on a level 2 charger to get a decent charge. And so usually you want to do something for those 30 minutes, so they'll put them in like shopping centers or somewhere where you can kill time for 30 minutes, or you're already planning to go shopping or something along those lines. Having a gas station or a small property that is only EV charging and doesn't really offer any other amenities may be challenging for people who want to charge, maybe. Yeah.
But this is going to have 14,000 in retail, right? The Mexican market and other things.
Yeah, it's convenience store. I mean, it'll be that typical, gas station type market. They may have a little extra into it, but yeah.
I do think, I don't know if this is a place to share opinions, but I do think there is like some value in looking at what Maynard doesn't have already, especially given we have so many gas stations. I mean, gas aplenty. But what can we provide for our residents that they don't currently like have today? And on top of that, it's my inclination, but like also sales tax necessarily for the city, because the other question I would ask, even if not necessarily in Maynard, how many people, what is the next EV station on 290 not going into Austin? Because I've looked at like charging stations like between Austin and Houston, common route, and I don't think there are many, so it could be a place for like the city itself to get like sales dollars and whatnot.
I have another. Oh, sorry, that was loud. I have another question. So this is 12.6 acres in total, theoretically, right? And this use is for 1.2.
So, the annexation is 1.2. The area is a little larger. It's probably closer to like 4 acres,
Okay.
5 acres.
So what's going on with the other 8? Like, you can come up to talk about it.
Yeah, my name is Mirza Beg. So if you look at the side, basically most of that side roads is in the floodplain. So our client right now is just trying to develop the corner in the front, and we have no plan right now on the back. I don't think so it's going to be like a commercial because the property is in the floodplain. And I can answer the other question you have regarding the improvement in the right of way. We did the gas station on Mini-Max 11, and when it goes to the tax dot, they ask a lot of right of way improvement. So the chances are same thing is going to happen on this gas station. So that TIA requires a lot of work and the coordination with the tax dot, and usually it happens when you submit the site plan. So it's not like I'm telling you we're going to do the improvement, but based on my experience, those things is going to come when we start moving forward with this project. And regarding the EV parking, if you guys want, you can put it, but usually we provide a couple of them, and our client is okay with that, yeah. And I can give you a couple of projects, you guys can go look at it, where they're already installing their Tesla EV parking stations, yeah. And regarding the safety, once the TIA comes, it usually tells where the traffic issues are, and that's how the improvement comes. And usually with the tax dot engineer traffic, we coordinate all those, and then we go with the construction plan in the right of improvement, yeah.
Could you provide those other examples that maybe are in similar circumstances?
Well,
and what improvements were provided there?
The one I can give you, the recently site plan get approved in the city of Maynard is the Minimax 11. And if you want, I think Scott has those plans, and it requires a lot of right of improvement along 290. And this store is pretty much the same size with the diesel canopy. So that's what we expect, the same kind of traffic. And once the tax dot see the traffic is coming based on the TIA, the recommendation will come, yeah.
Was it also built off a 2-lane road, and was there improvements to that 2-lane road too?
Well, I think, I don't know top of my head, but I think we make a right turn lane, and we have a de-acceleration lane, so we have a lot of improvement on that one based on the TIA. But usually when traffic engineer get involved, you want to make sure that trucks and all those are safe on the road. So usually client spend money on those TIA engineers, and the tax dot look at it, make sure everything goes right. But I can tell you, based on the improvement, based on the development on the site, we're going to have improvement on the street. It's not like we just develop without any improvement. Because the tax dot require TIA on this one, this I can tell you, yeah.
Can we request to be sent the information on the other similar property so we can make comparisons?
Yeah, I could provide y'all the Min-Max site plan. I mean, it's similar in some respects, but it's a lot smaller. That's why I'm not sure if this one would trigger a TIA. Like the Min-Max is 9 acres and has 10 fuel pumps and the 3 diesel pumps, and is a larger building and has a car wash, and it is a lot more intense. That's maybe how the tax dot ended up, requiring certain improvements. It's not known here if TIA would also be required and what those mitigations would be. And sometimes too, I mean, they don't always even require a TIA. If you're applying for a new driveway permit, they may just require a diesel lane at that point as well. That's happened on a couple of our projects that are smaller. And that diesel lane would be on 290. I'm not sure what they would require on FM 1100. It's a slower speed road, so they may not require any sort of turning movements there, but they may evaluate the turning radius of a semi. And I mean, that's something, there's computer programs that can do that. I've seen it, that sort of show visually like the turning radius, to make sure that they have the clearances around objects and within the turn and the drive aisles. So that analysis could be done to say, like, hey, if a semi truck is taking a left out of this to get back to 290 on 1100, can they make that turn? Or are they going to have to try to back up or basically do it really slowly and start, block traffic for the whole time? And I don't know the existing right of way that's over there and, what that looks like. Other than that, it is a 2-lane road.
Well, based on my experience, I can tell you on this one, we have 6 MPDs. And recently, based on the tax dot requirement, anything more than 4 MPDs require TIA. And based on the size of the building, 14,000 square foot with 6 MPDs and 3 diesel, they require TIA, that I can tell you. So there's no way once we go for the tax dot driveway permit, they're not going to issue until they approve the TIA and the recommendation, whatever improvement needs in the right of way.
And if I understand correctly, Scott, some TIAs, they need us to approve this before they even give it to them, correct?
No, I mean they can work with TxDOT on it. I mean that's a a separate process to submit for a TIA. The only the challenge may be if you wanted more information from TxDOT and a TIA, they'd have to tell them it was 6 fueling locations and diesel and this size facility. But then if y'all were to approve the specific use permit without the diesel, then that's going to change what their TIA was. And so there's sort of some things that have to be known and stay the same and, not shift. Otherwise it changes the outcome.
All right, commissioners, I got a motion to close agenda item, public hearing number 2.
I'll move to close the public hearing on item number 2.
Second.
I got a motion by Commissioner Myers, a second by Commissioner Nealer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Conduct a
Chair,
public. Yes, ma'am.
can I go for a quick break?
Yes,
I'll be
ma'am.
right- Okay, I'm stepping away.
Conduct a public hearing on rezoning application for a lot on 0.23 acres more or less, being lot 6A block 1, town of Maynard, and being located at 707 Bastrop Street, Maynard, Texas, from single family suburban to SF-1 to 2 family residential TF. Mr. Robert Bataille.
Thank you, sir. My name's Robert Bataille. I think we're kind of missing the best option for this property. For one, as regards all these alleys in Old Manor, I'd like to split them down the middle and give them to the property owners, frankly. They've been the ones caretaking all these for the most part for years and years. I also think there's a big problem because the phrase historic district was never told to the consultants that put together this $318,000 comprehensive plan. The phrase historic district has been in our city code since 2017. So I think that was really major catastrophe because as I understand it, this property owner really wants to put 2 townhomes stuck together there. The townhomes, there's nothing historic about a townhome. We should not allow any townhomes or any apartments in the historic Old Manor, which is from the creek to the creek, the railroad track to 290. We've got to really establish our history. I think the best use of this is to turn it into 2 lots and put 2 tiny homes on there. And I think the revenue can be very, very close to this other plan with these ugly townhomes. I look out at my window of I have a historic house on the 2nd level, and I look at 2 ugly townhomes stuck together, and it just bothers me every time I look at them. We need to protect our history. We don't need to try to stick other things in there. Part of the historic district, if you look at the definition, it's not just these big, beautiful mansions like Bloor Mansion or the one on 104 East Towns that you guys seem to want to destroy. It's all the little places in between that establish it as a community. This was established in the 1850s. And all the reason they had all these small lots was because no one wanted to build a big house because they had to chop down wood to keep it warm. The only reason they have all these small little alleys is so that the old fire wagons could get through there. So, there's a bit of nostalgia there. But I support using some of that alleyway for this property. But again, I would really urge the owner to go with the 2 lots, 2 tiny homes, And then you have a lot more flexibility on how you sell these things as well. And if it's maybe not quite as much money as you wish you were making, that's just the nature of where you chose to build, which was in a historic zone. So let's really accentuate our history. Again, that's why I think the comprehensive plan should be stopped immediately, and we should proofread it and take out all the lies and BS, and really understand what historic district is, and let's try to protect it and not turn it into 6th Street, Austin. This street here, it's not a commercial corridor. These streets are not urban streets, you know?
Time's up, Mr. Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. All right, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So this request has come before you last year. So on August 9th of 23, it was recommended for denial by the commission, largely due to the concerns about fire access for the back unit. The building was a little larger back then. The applicant, who is here tonight, so if you did have questions for her, she's available, worked with the fire department to kind of amend the conceptual plan for the 2-family unit, that it isn't more than 150 feet from the right-of-way, which is the maximum hose length for the fire department. So it would meet fire code standards, and the fire trucks wouldn't necessarily need to, traverse the driveway or try to get down the alley to get to the back unit. They can access the property, the structure from the road. And this property, it was platted at that same time. That was approved by the city council. So it went from 5 lots, which were non-conforming, to 1 lot, which is conforming with the variances that were approved with it. So it is only 40 feet wide, so it's 40 by 250. So it is not a typical lot. So there are some challenges to building upon it. So I believe the setbacks and the lot to depth ratio, and those are some of the variants that were filed to make sure that the lot was buildable. Otherwise, without the plat and the variances that were approved, really nothing could have been constructed on it. And so yes, the applicant is requesting to construct a duplex, which is in line with the comprehensive plan, sort of the range of housing types, trying to achieve affordability, and a little bit of additional density in the area. So really, it is only 1 additional unit. So right now, it's being zoned SF1. The property owner can construct 1 single-family home, and this would just permit 1 additional unit on the property. But yeah, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And again, the applicant is here too.
I noticed that on page 30, it indicates an area for the cars in the garages to back out and turn out. Those turnouts are not on that property. Those turnouts, as indicated, are in the alley that's on page 32, and that alley doesn't exist. That alley belongs to that property adjacent.
There is, yeah, so on the TCAD map that the zoning map was created, it doesn't show an alley. There is an alley on the surveys, it's there. It's sort of a TCAD error, which is not uncommon. There are other areas, like the Blue Bonnet alley, that doesn't show on TCAD. That the Brown House, as we call it up the street here, has been paying property taxes on that 5,000 square feet, and that is currently being addressed. But there is an alley. Yes, thank you. Oh, go back one, Mandy. Thank you. So it is there. It's surveyed. It's platted. It's on the city's historical plats. There is an encroachment from one of the neighboring properties into it. So we do try to get the alleys utilized as much as possible with the new development. You may recall last month with the townhomes across from Jenny Lane Park, we asked them if they could move from having front-facing garages to taking access off the alley. which they said they would. They haven't filed yet, but they said they would. And downtown here with the new developments, they're all using the alleys and paving them and improving them. So this property has use of the alleys. It depends. If it is a portion of their driveway, we would do a license and maintenance agreement, which is approved by the city council. So it'd say that they're putting their property onto the city, so the city doesn't have to maintain it. If we're able to, basically have the driveway in the alley, again, it's challenged because there's already a pre-existing encroachment, historical encroachment onto that alley from the neighboring house, so it can't be fully utilized. But if there is some ability to use it, as people pave the alleys and take access, it becomes the city's. So we would maintain those. So like the alley we paved behind Dewitt's, and like that. So if it becomes publicly or sort of usable, then its configuration, it may become the city's maintenance. But as currently conceived with just the additional turnarounds or turnouts or turning areas, we would just do that through a license and maintenance agreement, which is pretty typical. The council actually has one on their agenda for next week for another facility.
Miss Mandy, can you go to the next slide? One more. So, like, because I'm trying to look at it like Commissioner Myers is. So, if you look at that bottom one, that shows that when they back out of that garage, that's gonna hit 703's fence, isn't it?
No, the alleys are 20 feet wide. I mean, that bump out's probably only 5-6 feet. I'm not sure. There's not measurements on it, but less than 10. I mean, if there is a fence there, then that's another encroachment into the city's alley. So
there is no space though for guests since their driveway and drive takes up the full frontage of the property. So if they have guests, there's no place to park.
So the parking requirements, it's based on the number of bedrooms. Typically, a 3-bedroom house is like 3.5 parking spaces. So we always round up to 4. So most houses are required 4 parking spaces. So even if 4 bedrooms, it's 4 spaces. And those are usually achieved by the 2 in the garage, and then you can fit 2 on a driveway. A lot of people will fit more on their driveway and block the sidewalks. But here, they have, one of the units has a 2-car enclosed garage, and one has 3-car enclosed garage, and then all of the driveway space. So they have actually more parking spaces than they would need under code.
I have a question. What changed from last year, right? So we did thoroughly look at this last year. Is the only thing that changed was they talked to the fire department, or did they do any changes to the design? Did anything, like, it looks like the same submission to me, so I'm just trying to figure out like what exactly changed.
Sure. I don't know if the applicant would like to answer that question.
Thank you for looking into it.
Just state your name for us.
Hello, this is Wen Kai Chen. Yeah. We reduced the length straight. Last year has a bigger footprint. So after we talked to the fire department, they say just you have to fit within the 150 feet. So we reduced the backside and the front stay the same. So instead of 2 similar size, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, so the backside reduced to 2-bedroom. Yeah, I think the main concern last year was, folks consider like fire trucks access through the alley, and there's a whole slew of concerns there. So we reach out to fire department. They say that's fine. We show them the plan. Yeah, we show them with a reduced, excuse me, the reduced plan, the length, and they say it's okay. Any other questions?
Do we have any other questions, commissioners?
I remember last time also you were hesitant. I think the other thing last time that we had discussed was just, there are other single family houses there with big backyards there. Would you be open to just keeping it as a single family? Like, what is the criticality to have it be a two-family resident? And I think you had expressed that if you had it be a single family home, that it would be less affordable, if I'm remembering correctly. So my question to you is, how much would each of these duplexes, would they be for rent? And if so, how much would they rent for each?
Yeah, in fact, I guess just due to the size of the lot, like about 10,000 square foot. So, and give the density of the location, I think it just proportionally from the land versus floor area. I think it's called floor area ratio. It just makes sense to have a bigger size of the like living spaces. So back to your question is, ideally we would like to have a two separate smaller building, and according to Mr. Dunlop, and that just does not fit into that areas, or at least the current code. So per Mr. Dunlop's suggestion, and the duplex seems is the only way to go. Now back to your price reason, definitely a duplex is more affordable than standalone buildings. Now, I know I did not give you exact number, but just the two buildings on that 10,000 square lot, it just it's not a viable option at this moment. Mr. Dunlop, correct me if I'm wrong. For two separate buildings, I said it's not viable at this moment.
Yeah, that would be correct. I mean, the way our zoning code is, for two family, they have to be connected. At this point, we don't have like accessory dwelling units or things like that in our code yet. That is something that's coming at some point in the near future. But in order to have any additional units, more than one, it requires the two family zoning or more. I mean, you get to townhome, but townhomes is 3 or more units, and that really wouldn't fit on this size lot. And so really the only way to achieve any small amount of additional density is through two family to have one additional dwelling unit.
Do you know the square feet of each one? So, and give us an idea. Like, for example, a 1,300 square foot apartment rents for, I don't know, 1,300, 1,500 a month or something. How big are your units going to be?
Sorry, my eyes. I think there's an indication here. I just have to look really hard. I think it's a last
Never mind.
page.
I see it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Got it.
You're welcome.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, sorry. I look through the papers. Apologies.
Okay. I don't know if it answered the question or not on the cost, right? So you have these plans, you got to have some preliminary costing on this per square foot or whatever. But just to say, not giving an answer, that's not acceptable.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about the sales price, or are you talking about the build price?
If you rent it out, what is the cost of the rent? Like you go rent an apartment, it's $1,300 to rent the apartment. What would you rent these 2 units out for?
So we are basically thinking about build it, then we're going to sell it, right? So it's not necessarily turn into, it's just more affordable home ownership for people. So I think if you're talking about the build price, let's say $250 per square foot for a single unit, I would say for this kind of size, duplex probably reduce 20%, so at 80% of per square foot. So probably 250 per square foot. So anywhere from 80 to 90%. So which will from 200 to 225 per square foot build cost. So this is very accurate. So we are not into this rent market, but as a professional builder, that's the cost. And also, according to the architect needs, for the part of the reason is that area require like a brick veneer. So we are proposing stucco there. So at least, makes very appealing and improve the looking for the building. So that's, we did a preliminary cost estimation. It's a 250 if just a standalone. But if we use a townhouse, now make it more affordable, so definitely future buyer will enjoy that.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. I don't think it fully satisfied her question. As part of the architectural guidelines, where are you trying to deviate from? If you talked about brick veneer and now stucco, how does that align with the architectural guidelines?
That's the requirement.
What is requirement?
I think in that historical, that area, maybe Mr. Dunlap can help to answer that.
Yeah, if you'd like me to answer it.
No.
Okay.
You're the applicant, so I think you should know the answers.
No, this is written in that area about that particular area need a brick veneer.
Correct.
Or mason veneer, as
Correct.
we propose stucco.
You said something? All right, so it seemed like there's variations.
So she is right. The masonry is required. Masonry is stone, brick, or concrete stucco, and so stucco qualifies. It's a 70% front, 60% overall for the structure is that masonry.
Okay.
That's no variance. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right.
I thought no, definitely brick veneer is less expensive than stucco. What a point I make is a stucco, it will looks a lot better appealing for the neighborhood.
Okay.
And I guess my fault, I have 2 questions. Brick veneer is allowed under our current policy codes. Okay, but stucco is also allowed.
It's a step up.
And it
If
looks
you, from price perspective, just for the education, for example, brick probably will cost $15,000, and stucco probably $20,000. And of course, we can always go brick, just to make a house more affordable, right? Use the minimum required. But our architect is saying, wow, this one looks will looks real pretty. So again, we will meet or exceed the city's requirement.
And my last question is, you spoke to the build costs. As far as sales price, are you selling these independently, or are you going to sell them to one buyer? And what is your expected price per unit? Sales price.
Sales price will depends on the market, right? Not all builders making money. So
Estimations are okay.
estimation. So usually, generally, I guess a 20% kind of adds up to the build cost. Now, sometimes if we are not lucky enough, it probably sits there forever before the housing market come back. So I guess anywhere from 15 to 20% of markup.
Have any more questions, commissioners?
No, those are all good questions. We are really drilling into the numbers. Okay, thank you for the
Thank you, ma'am.
questions.
All right, do I have a motion to close public hearing number 4?
I move to close agenda item number 3.
I'm sorry.
Second.
I have a motion by Julie. Second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Conduct a public hearing on a subdivision short form final flat for Sanchez Acres on one lot on 7.99 acres more or less, and being located at 14614 Boys de Arc Lane, Maynard, Texas. Commissioners, we do have Mr. Tim Jackson here. He is the owner. Is that correct? He doesn't wish to speak, but if you have any questions, he's here for your.
Sorry, I kind of did.
Oh, you want to speak, Mr. Jackson? Come on. Yeah, go ahead. Come on, Mr. Jackson.
Good evening. Good evening. Mr. Pice said, as he mentioned, my name is Tim Jackson, born and raised in Maynard, Texas here. How many minutes I have? I'm not going to take too long. 3 minutes or so?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'll make it quick. First of all, I'd like to say thank each and every one of you this evening. Commissioner Leonard, Commissioner Chavis, Commissioner Hardiman, Chairman Pice, Commissioner Sormo, Commissioner Myers, Mr. Terry, Mr. Neela, and also Mr. Scott Dunlap. Reason why I say that, you guys are performing a thankless job. I sat right there in those seats. I used to be commissioner from the city of Maynard, planning and zoning. Served on the Maynard Independent School District School Board from 1988 to 2002, 4 years. Probably would have still been on the school board, provided that I would not, my wife and I, bought the 12.33 acres off of Boat Arc Lane. When we bought the property, we thought the property was in Maynard School District. Guess what? Across the street was in Maynard School District. We bought on the eastern portion, the eastern side of Boat Arc Lane, which is Elgin School District. So therefore, I stepped down off the school board and did not run for another term because I was told I could, but I did not want to run for the school, represent the school district, which I did not reside and live in the school district. I'm born and raised here, class of 1987. My wife is a Samaripa, Diane Samaripa. We graduated from high school together, class of 87. Her mother still reside here off of Browning Lane here in Maynard, Texas, right down the street here. Again, like I said, class of 87. My kids, Carissa Salutatorian, class of 2017 from Maynard High. My son, Nathaniel Jackson, graduated class of 20 Maynard High. Both are proud graduates of Texas A&M. University. The reason why I'm here this evening, I received a letter from the city of Manor last week about this meeting to come speak at this meeting for this Sanchez Acres final plat meeting, which we knew nothing about. I own 12.3, my wife and I own 12.33 acres. If you guys can pull it up real quickly, if I guess she's not here. That property is directly behind my fence line, and I own that. My wife and I own that curve, that corner. The Emergency Service District 12, which I used to be a board member and a commissioner there. In fact, I was on Manor's Volunteer Fire Department when we converted to ESD 12. So I served as a commissioner for the Manor Volunteer Fire Department as well as ESD 12 here in Manor. Manor's my heart, near and dear. My mother graduated from Manor when there was the Black Manor and the non-Black Manor. My mother is an Easley, that's her maiden name. My dad is a Jackson from the Houston area, but my roots are here. I mention that to let you guys know that Manor is near and dear to my heart and my family's heart. When I finished school at Southwest Texas State University, now I'm telling my age, I decided to come back home and make Manor my home. What I currently do now, although I'm not speaking, I'm the HR manager for the City of Austin Development Services Department right now. We used to be, up until March 2023.
Mr. Jackson, your time's up.
Oh, really? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just trying to give a little. Can I ask for a little more time if it's okay? And the reason why I was here.
Unfortunately, Mr. Jackson, we can't. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask if any members of the Sanchez Acres development here, because we did not know this was coming in.
We'll ask those questions for you, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my main concern was I have agriculture tax exemption on the 11.3 acres. If you can you don't see the property, but
all right, Mr. Jackson, we're gonna have to ask you to.
I want to make sure we were able to keep the agriculture tax exemption on the 11.3 acres. It used to be 5 acres, now it's 10 acres. I barely have.
All right, thank you,
Jackson.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Scott.
So this plat is actually they're just platting existing lots. So there's 2 unplatted lots that they're just combining into one. This isn't our ETJ, so we don't regulate the land use of the property. There are some existing residences on the property. I'm not sure that they may have needed to go to Manville or Aqua. This happens pretty frequently, and we need another water meter or service, and Manville says, hey, you have to have a legal lot for that, and so then they started the process. But they're not planning to subdivide it into a bunch of smaller lots, and again, we don't regulate the use, so if they are planning to do something different with the lots, that's not under our purview. That is a Travis County requirement. We just review the plat for conformance with our subdivision code, which this does meet. So when we get to the action item, we would recommend approval. There's a small right-of-way dedication on Bodark for it, which is good. The more of those we get, hopefully the sooner the county can work on that road. But again, it's really just platting 2 existing unplatted lots into one.
So Mr. Jackson, so what they're planning to do is they're planning to take this land and just put other lots on it, or can you explain? Are they here?
That's why I'm here, just
Mr. Jackson.
So yeah, it's taking 2 unplatted lots and making it 1 legal lot. So it's actually reducing the amount of lots that are there into just this one, just shy of 8-acre property. So that's all it's doing. Again, we don't regulate the land use, so there's no nothing's been filed, or nothing would ever be filed with the city if they wanted building permits. Again, said they likely probably went to Manville or Aqua or Travis County. Maybe they needed an additional septic permit or needed their septic improved, and the county got them and said, hey, this isn't a properly platted lot. You need to plat it to have these other permits issued. And again, that's pretty common requirement. So this may have been sort of a historical type division of the property, and through newer processes, there's various entities like Manville, Aqua, Travis County, even the city, will let people know when they apply for permits that they have to have legal lots for those permits to be issued. So that's probably what this property owner is doing here.
I have a question. When we get to the actual voting, I know this is non-discretionary. So what that means is that there are certain things that the state of Texas says that a planning and zoning board does have discretion to say yes or no, like zoning, like specific uses, etc. There are other things that we do that we are compelled by state law to approve. This is one of those. So technically, we don't have discretion to say no to this. However, one of the questions I had was, we can approve with conditions, right? So what kinds of conditions would you see in a situation like this?
For this particular plat, there really aren't any. Again, that might be, something along like an easement that would be on the plat, or say, for instance, if in our review we didn't catch that the right of way wasn't being dedicated, we realized it afterwards. We could say, hey, approve this with the condition that the right of way dedication be added. With us not regulating the land use or any really the development permits of this, there aren't many conditions that I can even think of that we would need to apply to this, and it is a really simple just platting of some unplatted property.
And ag exemptions are outside of our purview.
Oh, yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so the city doesn't do anything with ag exemptions. That's all through the appraisal district. And what this owner is doing in platting their property shouldn't have any effect on other people's exemptions. I mean, the appraisal district, they look at your property and whether your property qualifies, and they don't really look at what's happening around you. So that this should not have any effect on the adjacent property owners if they have ag exemptions or not.
So I'm going to piggyback off of Commissioner Leonard. We may not be able to say nothing, or may not be able to say no, but we do have the right to table this and ask that the owners show up at the next meeting, correct?
We could. Again, I'd recommend not doing that. Again, it really is just a simple plat of unplatted property in our ETJ, so we don't regulate the land use. And so, if they were planning to do something different on the property, that's not under our purview. So whether you know that or not, I would just recommend not, delaying them, because they may be waiting for septic permits that are being held by the county because it's not platted, or, water meters or something like that.
But just to confirm, it sounds like there's within this replatting, there's no change in what they were able to do with the property as far as like agricultural or commercial. There's no change in that. So essentially, they're just putting two plots that had the same use together.
Yeah, they're taking two lots that they owned that were unplatted and just making it into one lot.
Do we have any more questions, commissioners?
I move that we close public hearing on item number 4.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Myers, a second by Vice Chair Commissioner Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? moving on, conducting a public hearing on subdivision short form final plat for Las Enstradas North Section 3, one lot on 6.8 acres more or less, and being located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Highway 290 and Tailgate Pass, Maynard, Texas. Mr. Scott.
So this plat, it has been approved by the engineers when we get to that. They're taking what is currently 5 platted lots and replatting it into one. This is a commercial plat. It's zoned C1 like commercial. It's over there at Las Entradas, right next to the Frontier Bank and the Texaco, in that new development area there as you're just before you leave Maynard heading towards Austin. You can see they built all these new roads there and that kind of area. So there was one developer who purchased this whole Las Entradas Section 3, which was 5 lots now being platted into one, and then one additional lot on the other side of that state school road. And so they're wanting to still develop it commercially. That's not changing. But they're going to retain the ownership and lease and have sort of a condo regime for their businesses that want to locate within there. And so to do that, they just needed one single lot. The easements maintain, so they're not modifying any of those access easements and the drives that were planned through there.
And I'm sorry, Commissioners, Jonathan Sosby is here. He is the applicant. He does not wish to speak, but is here for any questions.
So the plan for this type of site is for it to be, you mentioned condo regime, so something more that we would expect coming from like a medical office and less like a retail office, and maybe the applicant can answer what the expected final use of the land will be.
Just state your name for us.
I'm Jonathan Sosby with Kimley Horn. We don't really have the exact use laid out just yet. It probably won't necessarily be like a medical use, maybe more like consumer services. But yeah, really the intention is just to be able to lease it out, and it provides different options, especially for like smaller businesses per se. They don't have to purchase a whole lot and then maintain the parking lot. They just have to maintain or keep up their building, and so it just kind of makes it easier to pick and choose different users essentially.
And if I mean with the medical C1, that still requires a specific use permit for a medical office, medical clinic. So if one of those users did want to locate on this, they would have to come before you all to request a specific use permit for that. So right now it would just be those sort of retail restaurant users.
Can you give us an example of what kind of development this would look like?
It just kind of depends. Especially with it being a bigger lot, you'll probably just kind of see it broken up into different buildings, maybe with like a parking lot kind of in the center to form different aisles. It just kind of depends once we get to site plan and once it gets fully engineered. I'm not an engineer, I am a planner, I do have to say, but once it gets fully engineered and just kind of figuring out where the best place to put the buildings and put the parking and how it fits with code. So it's just kind of hard to say at this point. But what you'll probably see is maybe just kind of along 290, have some just pad sites right there. So some maybe smaller buildings with the parking there, and then a larger building to kind of like anchor the site towards the back. But it just kind of depends, and what the developer, how they want to design it too. But because plattings, we're still kind of in the early stages of it. But
I have a suggestion. This is just kind of a general suggestion to take back to your company because I know we deal with them a lot.
Yeah.
You guys have some of the worst submissions as far as clarity on what you're asking for, the plat maps, where the stuff is, stuff like this. we would like to see more stuff like this because I spend half of my time trying to figure out where this property is because you don't put any map in it. You also don't put renderings, nice things like the lady did that was speaking earlier. She had a nice rendering of what this might look like. You guys never do that. I know you can't see the future, you don't know what's going to look, but you know enough to do something. But really just this, like, please tell your company to come back every time with this, because it is every time I just really struggle with where this even is. I have to look it up on my phone. I spend half of the time while you're talking doing that.
For sure. Yeah, we'll try to do a better job. That's part of the reason why we have planners like myself, is to help out the engineers. So we're trying to do a better job of providing better submittals. I do have to say, since we're not architects, it is harder to get those renderings or elevations, but we'll for sure try to do a better job of providing better submittals, especially for Scott, make it easier for him too. So
thank you. I know it's not your fault. I just
of course,
wanted to say.
yeah. But thank you for the feedback. I'll be sure to take it back for sure.
I mean, even a printout from Google Maps with a pen would be a lot more helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that back. Thank you for the feedback. We appreciate it.
All right. We have any more questions, commissioners? Can I get a motion to close public hearing number 5?
I'll move to close item number 5.
I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Myers, a second by Commissioner Orion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Moving on, consent agenda items. All of the following items on this consent agenda items are consideration by self-explanatory by the Planning and Zoning Commission and will be enacted with one motion. And there will be no separate discussions on these items unless requested by the chairperson or a commissioner member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Consent agenda item number 6, consideration and discussion and possible action to approve the minutes for the March 13th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission regular session. Miss Mandy, I do have on page 74, regular agenda item number 5. It has motion to approve carried 6-0, but it says Commissioner Meyer opposed.
It's going to be the same item number 7.
I move that we approve the minutes with those 2 corrections.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Moving on. Agenda item number 7, consideration and discussion and possible action on rezoning application for 2 lots on 12.67 acres more or less and being located at 13105 FM 1100 Maynard, Texas, agriculture A to medium commercial C2.
Sure. So this was the one that has the following request for the gas station use. Staff would recommend approval. C2 medium commercial is very common and applicable for 290. It's consistent with the future land use map for medium commercial on 290.
But this one is not where we would put our request in for diesel, non-diesel. This is just the flat, correct?
This is just the zoning request. The next item is related to that specific use permit for the gas sales. So this is only just approving the base zoning for the property, which is a whole range of uses. They are in your backup. There's a C2 land uses. So you can see when you approve C2, the range of uses that are permitted, permitted by right, conditionally permitted with conditions, and then ones that require specific use permits.
I'd like to move that we approve item number 7.
A second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Meyer, a second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 8, considering discussion and possible action on specific use requests for one lot on 1.273 acres more or less and being located at 13105 FM 1100 Maynard, Texas, to allow for that includes a 14,020 square feet general retail Mexican Mart building, 6 MPDs, 3 diesel MPDs, and associated parking with drive alleys.
I know we talked about this earlier. I think my main concerns just with the gas station was one, the diesel stations that I think would cause a lot of issues with regards to like safety concerns and traffic concerns, and then 2, the burden it would then put on like the road that is going to be like highly traveled by residents, and that larger vehicles would then tear up the road. The road referencing to 1100 FM 1100, and then the last one, there being conditions specifically around like EV use cases, and multiple EV stations to provide something for Maynard residents that we don't currently have. Which in the case, if we're just getting another gas station, there's one, not very far away on the same eastbound side. So those are my initial concerns with this one. I don't know if this is,
Yeah, I would agree. The residents of Maynard have been pretty clear just overall the last years is we don't need more gas stations. We don't. And especially on this spot, there's several. And a lot of them have little Mexican marts too. My favorite tacos are down there. So we need to put stuff that's different than what we've got. This is not. The only way it would be different is if it was an EV hub. That's the only way, in my mind, that it would be worthwhile.
Scott, I have a question. The one that's coming on Boys to Arc, they don't have the EDs coming to that gas station. They just have the truck pumps for them. Is that correct?
That I don't know. I don't know if they're having EV I mean, this is the same engineer. He may know, but apologize. I can't recall if the min max has any EV charging spaces within that.
Because I do have to agree with the other commissioners. We got to make this different, because like they're stating, there are gas stations everywhere, all up and down 290. But it's like, why would people stop at this gas station? But I do understand that as a business and bringing businesses to Manor, we don't have ED stations, and the one we do have, you have to live in that apartment complex to use it. So I think my consideration and opinion would be maybe looking at more ED stations than you're maybe opting out of the diesel and adding the ED stations, more of those ED stations instead of your diesel pumps. And so that way it would make a difference. And I think you would get a lot more traffic to you, because I don't even know if one ED station is in Elgin. So that's my consideration.
I would be inclined to agree on the against the diesel stations too, because really just thinking about the residents of Manor, the people filling up diesel cars are not going to be residents of Manor, but who's going to be paying for the road itself as it gets, deteriorates because of the trucks that are going in there. Those would be covered by the residents of Manor.
I might have a diesel truck. Just saying, right? But as a part of this zoning on the previous agenda item, we talked about having a gas station, convenience store, and a retail space. We didn't really talk about the retail space, did we? No.
I think Scott said it was just a basic gas station, like convenience store attached to the gas station. It wasn't like an actual other thing, right?
That's what I'm assuming, but they are here. You can ask them what their plans are for their space.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a little misleading. That's actually on their letter to you, stating that should the proposed zoning change occur, gas station, convenience store, and retail space would comprise the development. And really trying to understand what that entire piece really means. Having a C2 designation is one thing, and then having a specific use permit is a different thing. That we can come back and contemplate the exact thresholds or limitations as a part of a specific use permit, instead of trying to shovel it down throats to figure it out. I don't want to be under the gun on trying to make all these changes, all these decisions without really consulting and making a real comprehensive decision as a part of our commission on that. It seems that there's going to be some changes that we would be requesting, maybe looking at drive lanes for these trucks. If it's in on 290 coming from the east, but where would the trucks enter coming from the west? That would be questions that would need to be answered there too. What's that? Oh, okay, all right. And also too, there's the process that is going on with TxDOT. Where are we in conjunction with that? Is decisions on specific use permits depending on that progress with TxDOT, or that's a totally different circumstance and situation where we can understand what those results from the TIA is before making a decision whether we would want any additional improvements to be made or bring about the commission to decide that. And so that would be my question on number one, where's that in the process, and how do we fit in that equation? And then number two, coming back and really evaluating this entire specific use and development of that, because I do want to make sure that we're addressing issues so that there can be collaborative solutions for everyone. There's residents that live there around that area, and I want to make sure that any development that we have is in the best interest of the city and the residents as we move it forward, and not just approving something without having all those necessary improvements and also the good to haves in planning and action on writing before we move forward.
Quick question in regards to the diesel pumps. Those are going to be for large vehicles, not just one that I would ask my wife to let me purchase, right? We're looking at big rigs, right?
That's how it's shown on the concept plan is large semi trucks.
And the only one we're going to be getting is going westbound, future westbound by Bodark, correct?
Yes, that the Min-Max Travel Center will have, I believe, 3 diesel pumps that are have a higher canopy and separated from the passenger traffic, so it is geared towards the larger semi trucks to use.
And we have nothing going eastbound where we can potentially gain tax dollars or sales tax going east, leaving Main area at this present time, correct?
Yeah, we have nothing submitted or in the works for like diesel fueling on the eastbound side of 290.
And the only reason why I'm asking is because it's an opportunity for us to gain a certain amount of revenue. It may not be a large amount, but we're going to be able to be a one-stop shop for the whole city. If we're looking at expanding our city the way the vision is planned, we should be able to provide accommodations for all vehicles. And granted, we need to have the EV stations. We need to look at that part a little bit more. But I think we need to be if we're going to be a one-stop shop and be like the destination location, that we should be able to offer services to all visitors that are going to be passing by, because if they're coming in from one part of the state, we can get their money in some fashion.
You have to weigh out the pros and cons, right? So there are pros. There's also cons. I think having people like rest stops and things where people are sleeping overnight, those things can come, speaking as someone who lived near that in a past life, it can come with some undesirable things, right? That could come when you have truckers staying overnight and certain things like that. So it's, there's money to be gained, but there can also be crime and potentially other things to be lost, to be, I guess, gained.
No, and absolutely. In a previous life, I worked in those stations. But from what I'm understanding from the developers and from the owners is that they're looking at, it's not overnight. They're going to be going in and out, purchase, get out the door. That was the understanding from what I heard, is that there is no overnight, that they don't want to have that part, because, and I'm not putting words in their mouth, but I'm going to assume it's because of the concerns that you're bringing up, which, like I said, I've seen that one before, but they've already addressed it to us that there's no overnight parking for anybody there.
We should put that in any kind of things that we say as terms of our requirements. We should definitely state that clearly, that we do not want overnight parking if we are going to do that.
Yeah. And actually, this is the other thing, is this is right in front of a residential neighborhood, and actually in front of my neighborhood. And that's why I see that there is diesel gas station like less than one light down on the same side. So I think that's where it was mainly coming from, and mainly the safety concern between big trucks stopping, and as you're near a turn into a neighborhood. I think that those were more and more concerns. And then the road being actually torn up, and there's a whole bunch of people that live in that neighborhood and want to drive in, and then now these big trucks are tearing up the road, and there's a lot of potholes. Those were concerns.
Oh yeah, and that's understandable. I live right nearby a new gas station. It's right in my subdivision. I get that part. And from what we understand, the TIA is going to take care of that part. He's going to tell us what they need to do to make accommodations and adjustments to the roads and how they're going to be developed. And obviously, I'm assuming TxDOT may have some type of involvement in that part as well, especially on 290 and what can be built. So I mean, we're looking at the initial phases about what road development is going to happen. And once the TIA comes in, once they conduct the surveying, then I guess this city council it's going to be up to city council on that part to decide any type of adjustments that happen with that TIA. Is that correct?
No, TIA is, as part of a site plan, it would be administrative. So really the discretion comes down to the zoning and the specific use permit. And then once they have those entitlements, the site development permit, which would include, if required by TxDOT, a TIA, they would do that there, and we go through TxDOT, and we may review it too, just to know what's going on. And then like the building permits are all administrative, so if they're not applying for variances to site plan, building permit, everything after these applications would be administrative. And as they needed the plat, that may come back before you as well. Sorry.
So basically, this is our last chance to weigh in for the most part, right?
Correct. Yeah, unless, yes.
Unless what?
Unless you postponed it or denied it and they modified and came back, but yes. So
could we postpone if we could we require a TIA to come before we make decisions? Because I know we've done that in the past where we wanted to see a TIA before. In fact, I think we did that. They did a TIA at the property off of 973. We just had last month. They came back with a TIA, and we really got into it with them about the specifics. Can we do that here as a best practice?
Yeah, you can request that they speak with TxDOT to determine if that TIA is required, and then if yes, then they can go through the process. That is an expense on their behalf that may ultimately not need anything, because if y'all still deny it and the city council denies it, then they put in the effort to do that without the benefits, but you have the discretion to request more information, and them come back when they have that information. And they may hear from TxDOT, which again we've had on other projects where it's hey, put that diesel lane on 290 and that'll be good, which would be the information that they can bring back to you all. Whether that meets what you're looking for or not, that could be determined, but it would be something from TxDOT.
That's what we've done before. So we have precedent to have done that with other zoning requests. So I would move that we postpone agenda item number 8 pending a TIA.
Sorry, may I clarify something? Just because TxDOT may not require a TIA, I mean, we heard from them that it seems like 6 fuel pumps would, but if the chances that TxDOT's response is, hey, if you build a diesel lane, you don't need a TIA, you can do this, just so they know that it's okay to come back after that. Basically, having the information from TxDOT, whether it's a TIA or other approved traffic improvements, just that flexibility.
Correct me if I'm wrong, please, engineer. How many pumps do you plan to have on the diesel to even would we be wasting your time asking you to come back with the TIA because on your drawings here it only shows 2 diesel pumps. Is that correct, Scott?
There's 2 diesel and 6 gas pumps, which are double-sided, so you have 12 fueling locations for the gas.
Okay, so they would need the deceleration lane even for the vehicles, correct? Not so much the semi-trucks.
I can speak to that. That is a TxDOT request or requirement.
Can we also request specifically what updates will be made to FM 1100 too? In addition to 290?
Yeah, we can have the applicant make sure they speak with TxDOT that, if there's any improvements that are also on 1100, because TxDOT may just want to focus on 290, and TxDOT may or may not require anything on 1100, but the direction from you all could be to postpone until they have spoken with TxDOT and figured out, what's going to be required from them, and then get that information of what traffic improvements would be there.
I have a question, and of course I've been to many truck stops driving 18-wheelers in my life. There are some areas that they would never have to get on 1100 if the developer and the owner put, trucks cannot exit this way. It could be only a car exit, so that way it makes those 18-wheelers get back on to use the main entrance of the store. Is that correct?
They get to 290.
Well, no. What I would say is they wouldn't be able to exit to 1100. Like that would be only a, vehicle lane. Like we've all been to Buc-ee's. There are certain entrances 18-wheelers can't go in. They can only come in and exit. There's a lot of these truck stop stores that 18-wheelers have their personal own entrance and exit because of 2-lane roads, country roads, little roads. That would be my suggestion. That way you keep these big trucks off of 1100. You keep the traffic for, Mr. Snowden and them to be able to get on there. Can that happen?
No, I see what you're saying there. I think, if you're contemplating traffic, coming eastbound, how to get there, you'd have to kind of go past and then turn around and get back on that side to turn. But I'm sure, I'm sure y'all great engineers that are very creative in traffic analysis that can come up with that piece. So if that is something that you would want to suggest, there still is a motion, and you can amend that motion to encompass all that.
Let me do that.
All right.
Can I amend the motion to say that we postpone pending the applicant discuss the need for a TIA with TxDOT?
Did you want to add EVs?
I don't think I want to get into like what exactly things we want until we look at the TIA, because we want them to come back in front of us with the TIA, and then we can discuss those things, don't you think? I think that makes sense. It could be confusing if we're starting to put conditions on something and you can't postpone with conditions, right?
Well, but if we don't meet their pump analysis, or if we say, hey, we do not want diesels, that can limit their pumping stations, and that may require them not to have a TIA.
Yeah, and that's why I think amending it to make sure that you're not just talking about a TIA if it will warrant it, but also traffic mitigations and infrastructure improvement to come back for that, right? It definitely, I don't think that you want, if they come back and report back that TxDOT is not requiring these things, so we're doing the minimum, which is nothing. All right, let's approve it. That's not going to happen. Right? So come up with ideas, plans that work, along with your conversation negotiation with TxDOT for us. Right? Have to come up with ideas and plans that work.
So, commissioners, we're going to have to we're going to have to when we put this motion in, we'll have to make sure whatever we put in this motion, that's what they're going to come back to us, and that's what we are asking of them. So my suggestion, like I think Vice Chair Commissioner Chavis is saying, is if we're going to put no diesel pumps, or if we're going to put EDs, I say we do it now, so that way we're not telling them, okay, go out there to get this TI. Okay, well now come back with this drawing on EDs, and now come back. I think if we give it to them now and have them come back one more time, I think that would be better than having them go do this and them come back and there's a possibility we can say no again.
So our choices are, if we postpone, then we just postpone, right? That's a postpone. So we can give them guidance with the postponement, but not make conditions tied to the postponement. So I guess then the motion would be postpone, talk to TxDOT, remove the diesel, look at changing the pumps to be 90 degrees different so that there's not traffic issues, and then also look at adding EV pumps. Is that the motion? Does that meet every requirement that?
We had discussed the parking overnight, just in case.
Oh yes,
I don't know.
and the no overnight parking.
Go ahead, then, Mr. Dunlap.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
This recommendation will be forwarded to the city council, and they couldn't approve it because they do need a definitive recommendation from you all. So they can postpone. I mean, they can deny, I suppose. Well, maybe they can't. But this recommendation will be forwarded to the city council for further consideration. Yeah.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Commissioner O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
Oppose.
All right, motion passes. Moving agenda item number 9. Consideration and discussion and possible action on rezoning application for one lot on 0.23 acres, more or less, being lot 6A, block 1, town of Manor, and being located at 707 Bastrop Street, Manor, Texas, for single family subdivision, or suburban, SF1, or two family residential.
Sure. And so this zoning application, as we discussed before, the applicant discussed it with the fire department regarding the maximum hose lay length of 150 feet to make sure the structure complies with that. And this is one additional unit above what's already permitted with the base zoning of single family, the SF1. And it is in compliance with aspects of the comprehensive plan, like encouraging a range of product types, encouraging diverse housing in terms of type and affordability, encouraging a balance of a mix of residential, commercial employment at varying densities and intensities, promoting more compact, higher density, well-connected development within appropriate infill locations, and encouraging innovative forms of compact, pedestrian-friendly development and a wider array of affordable housing choices, and then increasing development of housing units close to multimodal infrastructure and mixed-use developments, including downtown, So there's a couple aspects within the comprehensive plan that this does meet. So staff recommends approval for it.
Do we have any questions, commissioners? Do I have a motion for agenda item number 9?
I'd like to move that we deny item number 9.
I have a motion by Commissioner Myers. Do I have a second? I have a second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Oppose.
Motion passes.
If I may, just a question, because I have to forward recommendations on to City Council. What's the rationale for the denial? The rationale for the denial, because I have to provide it to City Council.
Push your microphone.
Excuse me. The slide is too narrow and inappropriate for the proposed development for that lot.
Thank you.
Moving on, agenda item number 10. Consider discussion and possible action on subdivision short flat for Sanchez Acres, 1 lot on 7.99 acres, more or less, and being located at 14614 Boys d'Arc Lane, Maynard, Texas.
So this plat, it has been approved by our engineers, so we're recommending approval, and they are just platting 2 existing unplatted tracts into 1 lot.
I move to approve agenda item number 10.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Meyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to agenda item number 11, considering discussion and possible action on a subdivision short form final flat for Las Enstradas North, Section 3, 1 lot on 6.8 acres, more or less, and being located at the northwest corner of the intersection of U.S. Highway 290 and Telegang Pass, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this is the one it's currently platted as 5 lots, and it was all purchased by one developer who is replatting it into a single lot to make a condo regime commercial development.
I'd like to move that we approve this item number 11.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to agenda item number 12. Consider discussion and possible action on final flat for Shadow Glen subdivision phase 3, section 1, 199 lots on 58.39 acres, more or less, and being located near the intersection of Riker Loop and Foos Grove, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this plat, it has been approved by our engineers, so we'd be recommending approval. It is just another section for Shadow Glen. Phase 3 is the final phase. There's believe 6 sections within phase 3. So this is the first of those. And yeah, it's 199 lots. Most of them are 195 are single family, 4 are essentially drainage lots. There are some, on your summary form, there are some of the traffic mitigations that the county approved. The roadways these connect to, Rector Loop and Foxgrove, and even down to Greg Manor there, those are all county maintained, and so the mitigations are controlled through Travis County. So there's some turn lanes and some additional improvements at their driveways, but that is all again handled by the county, and you can see there's the numbers there for you.
I move that we approve agenda item number 12 with hopefully better maps. And yes, next time. Thanks.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 13, considering discussion on possible action on next step items for the February 13th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission workshop.
Sure. So this one, sort of the discussion and direction for myself. Yeah, at the last meeting, Commissioner Chavis had wanted some additional follow-up based on that workshop. And so from my notes and what was discussed, it seemed like we wanted to review zoning application procedures, review our subdivision code, including that parkland dedication requirement, and instituting some rules and procedure policies similar to the city councils, which I did provide in your backup. But I guess going forward, to review these items, did you want to have it happen at, another regular meeting? Would you like to coordinate at a workshop? Before, after a regular meeting, weekend, however you want to handle that. Yeah, so that's really just what I'm looking for is when's the next time you'd like to do that, and is there anything else, aside from those zoning application procedures, subdivision code, parkland policies and procedures that you would like to discuss there? And then also, you don't necessarily need to provide that to me tonight. If we can figure out, maybe not like a date, but maybe just y'all can think about it. You can email me. We can kind of coordinate times if we needed to. But yeah, just sort of thinking about, are these discussions happening during regular meeting, or do we schedule a workshop to just focus on that like we did last time? And then is what I listed what we want to talk about, or not, or more or less?
Yeah, I would suggest to have this once a quarter ongoing, because I think new things are going to come up, or things are going to change, ordinances will change, and then we'll have to go back and look at, so I could see this being like an ongoing once a quarter workshop. I don't think we should do it. I mean, our meetings are lasting so long anyway, right? I don't think we should try to stuff it into a meeting. But I think it's worth having a separate workshop to do these things once every 3 months, because I do want to close the loop on some of these things, and then if things change, to reopen it or whatever. So I think city council does stuff like this. They have committees and meetings, and they split out into that. We don't have that, so this is kind of our version of that. That's how I think of it.
In question, Scott, I know you sent this city council rules and procedures. Is there one for the commissioners?
No, that would be an outcome of these discussions. And talking with UVR city secretary, we'd really actually maybe take it and maybe not necessarily be planning and zoning commission rules and procedures, but like boards, commissions, committees. So it's applicable to maybe the board of adjustment, other ones that we have, not council committees. They would fall under these council rules of procedures. But yeah, if you've had an opportunity to look through it, it is pretty extensive, the rules of procedure. And we do already have some examples. When I was talking to Evie today, she's like, "Oh yeah, I have some examples of other cities and their boards and commissions." I was like, "Oh, okay." But what we have right now for the city is the city council one. But we can certainly, if we schedule a workshop or however next time we meet on it, we can bring draft versions of it that staff is proposing. And again, y'all are more than welcome to review that city council one, say things are applicable, you want things changed, modified, or again, we can start with sort of a staff go at it, and then that's the version we can start modifying.
Well, some of the concerns I have about seeing this city council one, I mean, some of these ordinances are of 2018, and I know we're still a little ways, but that's almost a good bit of ways. Like, I mean, can we start looking at some of these ordinances and figuring out, like we're saying is, I think something like this, like Commissioner Leonard said, we need to do it, quarterly, but I think something like this, we may need to look at how soon can we start this, because this is something that's needed. I think us as commissioners, like Commissioner Leonard said, we're spending a lot of time here, and I think if we have these rules and procedures and know, like Commissioner Leonard is saying, have an insight, have a game plan, and know what's going on. I think these meetings could be a little bit shorter, but I do enjoy being here with you guys. But yeah, so I would as soon as we can start shooting some dates out there.
We are in the second quarter already, so if we want to stick with the quarterly thing, we have May, June, before we get to that third quarter. There's also, still this month if you wanted to put something in the next few weeks. So.
I would say, I know that June, July hiccup we get, we enjoy our summers, because I know those two meetings get a little hiccup. But I would propose that we look at May. I know it's graduation end of the school year, but maybe we can squeeze something out of there, especially since we missed this last one with the city council.
I agree. And it'll give us a month to put our thoughts together, so we're not doing it like next week to try and scramble. So it gives us time, but then it's also before summer. I think May is the best bet.
Our next planning commission, it's May 8th. We'll likely have another roadway impact fee, maybe the last one then. Just letting you know what happens. Like, we'll have the regular meeting for that, and then that. So maybe how it was in February. If you wanted it on the same day where we have the workshop, regular meeting, and we'll bring y'all some dinner.
That means pizza, right? Or sandwiches. Or
Commissioners, I have a question. I guess, can I ask this to the commission? I know we spend a lot of time, and it's 9 o'clock, and we have lovely children that we want to get to, and I do have a new grandchild that I love spending time with. But what do we oppose on that Saturday mornings things? Is that a difficult time for you guys? I know Commissioner Chavis, that second one is is a tough one.
I'm gone 2 weekends a month, but the other 2 weekends I'm
here. May 4th is Manor Palooza, so that one may be challenging.
I will not be here after the second weekend in May.
So it looks like the 25th is the only Saturday that's available, and unfortunately that is Memorial Weekend.
Could we have it like before the meeting starts, like before the P&Z? So we came at like 5:30 and did it before the P&Z, so that way we're starting P&Z at the same time and we do this before then.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we could do it like we did last time. Just have a longer night. That's no problem at all.
Is April a bad time?
I don't think it's enough time to put our thoughts together in email and like come up with an agenda and like have a list of stuff we can send Scott, a list of stuff we can send Felix. It would be hard to do that. I feel like.
And other evenings are available too. Like, it doesn't necessarily be on a P&Z night or Saturday. Like, you know, we can have a workshop on a Monday night, any night during the day. I mean, it's really, yeah, a lot of flexibility.
Well, commissioners, it is getting late, and our lovely SIF lady is now here. So what we can do is, I guess if it's okay, we'll just Mandy will shoot some days out, you know, that work for everybody, and the day we choose is what we choose. But do I have a motion to? Do we even need a motion for this one?
No, this was just a discussion item to provide that direction
Thank
to
you.
Mandy and myself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for this workshop though, we need to have a clear plan of what we're going to be talking about and discussing, so that we all come into the meeting with the actionable items or and review documents if that's appropriate. So if the proposer is going to be covering our commission rules and policies, right? And so for those examples, you can shoot that to us for the various cities. I looked at some also and already have a kind of a good plan of action that we can include for consideration. As a part of that too, I know like the list that we had was zoning applications, reviewing our subdivision codes, and then the parkland dedication requirements. In our rules, we need to look at a section for our committees that we can, or the chair can appoint the members for those committees, so that now we're being glued into what's going on in various other commissions or boards, or even just these requirements that we need to bring forward to the entire commission, so that we're we're dividing and conquering to bring back at our standing meetings of whatever, if it's going to be a quarter that we can have in those, and that way we're continually improving throughout the year, so that we have a strategic plan. By the end of the year, we should have X, Y, Z, approved or brought to the city council for approval, and then we can move on from there.
I agree with that, Mr. Scott. If we can get those things that Miss Uvia has, like as soon as we can, so we can start looking at them, start asking our questions, like Vice Chair Commissioner Chavis is asking, and that way it gives us an opportunity to look at it. I think that would be helpful, so that way, when we do get to that meeting time, we are almost already rolling, because questions are being asked, ideas are coming up, and so I think that would be a big help if we can do a lot of the back work before we get to the meeting.
Yep, definitely. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
All right, so since we don't need anything on this, do I get a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:17?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Commissioner Vice Chair Chavis. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.